Hey guys, and welcome to this production overview of my remix by Airbase, Escape. I decided to do one of these just to show my fans and followers how my projects look like in Logic, and this is one of them. It's not really that advanced in terms of layers, but still there's enough to keep the tension going on throughout the track. So in this particular track, the most signature sound I think is the bass line, which consists of 6 bass layers as well as a tom sample. And here's how this sounds like all together. Yeah, they all play the same arrangement in the bass MIDI, and together with the kick drum, we have this energetic sound going like this. So yeah, the MIDI is a really rhythmic pattern just to keep the track a bit more energetic, and the bass layers consist of several layers of massive synths, all run through a decimort distortion unit to give it a little more decimated distortion. I EQ every bass differently, and I also run them through FabFilter Saturns to give them some additional saturation. I then carefully image each layers through the S1 imager from Waves. I also use a high and low cut filter through FabFilter Simplon, which you can hear here. Which is a cool transitional effect. They all then go through the same sidechain settings in the built-in compressor just to give the track a more pumping sound, which is essential in all trance music. And of course there's several layers of percussion elements in this track. I here bounce them to bars of percussion just to keep it more visually easy. So first we have 4 different claps, which sounds like this. Here there's this reverse clap thing going on for every second clap. There's also this one, just to give it a bit more rhythmic effects. And there's this one, which is a sort of a ride sample, which goes on top of the kick. Here's just some small additional percussional elements. A little shaker just to give the track a little bit more rhythmic elements. Here's an offbeat hi-hat, a really simple one, and there's the additional shaker, and 2 layers of shaker instruments panned to left and right just to give the track a little bit more stereo field, and they sounds like this. You also notice I removed lots of bottom of this one because there were some additional frequencies there that I didn't really like. So the whole percussion elements sounds together like this. I've also added rides later in the track just to give it some more energy in the drop. Like so. So moving on to the synths, there are, first of all, there's 2 leads which forms the signature melody of Escape. Yeah. they sound like this. I've also filtered this up and down throughout the track to give the track more tension, and yeah. And it sounds like this. The first one is a square synth with lots of reverb, and the other one is a more saw synth with also lots of reverb and delay. Moving on the track, you notice that I increased the cutoff. Before then again I build them down and then up again at the drop in the track. I also have several pads in this track, not that many actually, but enough to keep some chords going on. There's first of all this a regular trance pad, which is through massive. There's also this pad inspired by Brian Eno's An Ending. Although this is only playing in the break though. The same goes for this pad, with lots of reverb just to give the track a little bit more atmosphere. And I also added a sub pad just to fill those low frequencies in the breakdown. And all together they sound like this. I also recycled the strings from Airbase own 2011 remix of the track, which is where you hear the strings in the breakdown, and they also give the track a lot more charisma in the breakdown. And they sound like this. And this is from the intro of the version he featured on his album from back in 2011, I think it is. And together with the lead synth and the pads, it sounds like this. You notice that the strings give a lot of textures, extra textures to the track. The additional pads of mine are more just to fill the stereo fields and whatnot. So moving on, I've also used several plucks in this track. There's the pluck from the original, the Tease one. I actually tried as good as I can to recreate the original pluck from the original version of this track, so you can decide for yourself if I manage it or not. There's also this one, which is also from the original, which is a mixture of a guitar thingy as well as a sine wave with some distortion. Both of these also have lots of delay just to fill the track a little bit more with noise and whatnot. There's also this arpeggio which I have in the track, which is, I believe this synth I've also covered in one of my silent tutorials, which is this one. You also noticed I have several additional layers like a Fab Filter Volcano and a stereo delay, lots of reverb. And also I use this arpeggio. Just to fill some additional frequencies throughout the track. This one also plays the pattern of the bass line later in the track, which sounds like this. So it plays the chords, the same chords the pad plays. There's also several effects in this track. For starters, there's this basic white noise sample, which sounds like this, which also goes for a longer time at the first drop, the first bass drop, which gives the track some more energy in the first bass part. You really notice that there's something missing. There's also several other elements like this big kick with lots of reverb, which I, for example, use here as well. It's just a sample just to really give the listener a big heads up when there's some extra when there's a transition in the track. I also use these uplifters, which is very generic. I have this one. With lots of echo as well, and some additional reverb. I use this one, which is also just a generic uplifter. And this one as well, which is a more white noise based uplifter. I also have these two, which is more or less my signature snare fill before the drops, which sounds like this, which has started to become a signature sound of mine, as I've used those samples in basically all my recent tracks. There's also these transitional tonal elements, which I've sampled from the original track, with lots of echo as well as reverb. And the first one sounds like this. So if you've heard the original, or if you're a huge fan of the original as I am, you might notice all of these samples. As well as this one. And not to forget this one, which is, can't really recall this one. I just actually think it's texture from Omnisphere. Anyways, that's about this. It's for this track. The build-up is very generic. We start along with the arpeggio as well as some percussion elements, while I then introduce the claps later on in the track, just to give the track a little bit more rhythmic elements in the intro. So at the 30 seconds mark, I introduce more percussional elements as well as while I build up the bass layers. I do that by slightly increasing the low frequencies throughout FabFilter Simplon, as you can see here. I do so actually on every bass layer. You also notice I use the same automation from curves on each one. And to get that sharp sound, I play around with the peak filter, as you can see here. So I also tend to automate a low cut on other elements as well in the transitional parts of the track. So yeah, I think that's about it for this track. I might do one of these productional overviews for some of my other tracks later, but I guess this is okay for now. So let me know if you think this is have been of any value at all. Leave it in the comments, and please subscribe and like my page as well if you want to support me as an artist and just to get informed of all of my music and whatnot. So yeah, take care. Cheers.